Now the present temple that you will see was actually, the temple keeps rebuilt over many periods of time. Originally, the first personality who actually built it is King Indradumna. In a previous Satya Yuga. So it's about millions of years old. But, ever so often the sea and the sand that blows in covers up the temple, and then a king's, a new dynasty, they dig it up and make it okay, and then they start the worship like that. So it's been going on for thousands and thousands of years like that. And so the present temple was begun by King Chora Ganga Deva, and his descendant finished it. His name was Ananga Bhima Deva during the 12th century. Since I was just there last week, so I couldn't really put up a slideshow or whatever, so forgive me, the fact that I was also giving this seminar is a shock for me also, because when Radha Vinod asked me what you want to do, I said, well, I'll just speak my experience of what I had in Jagganath Puri, but it turned out to be a seminar. So anyway, no harm done. It's a big temple complex. For, I guess, most Westerners, they don't let Westerners in. They follow this old system where they think those who are from outside of India are not allowed in the temple complex. It's a big property, actually. It's about 10.7 acres, the temple area. It's huge inside, yeah, really huge. And they have 2 rectangular walls, goes around, very nicely. They built that. The king built it very nicely. And one of the things is that they have a I shouldn't say brand new, they rebuilt their kitchen about 5 years ago, and it's considered to be one of the largest kitchen in the world. And it feeds thousands of devotees daily. It can prepare food for up to 100,000 people a day. And they can really, and they say even if they cook that much, it never runs out. And 25,000 is normal for them on a normal day. And this temple itself, or the Jagganath Puri, it's run by not by Brahmanas. It's run by a family or hereditary group of people who are not even qualified. When King Indradumna first established the temple, after locating, originally the deities in that place was known as Nila Madhava. Nila Madhava means blue Madhava, and he was sapphire. He was made of sapphire. That's far out, no? So he was manifesting that darshan for half the life of Lord Brahma. And then when King Indradumna advented, he developed this amazing love for God. So the Lord wanted to reciprocate with him. So when he heard about Nila Madhava, he came with his army, his entourage, and he came to this Puri, this Niladri hill, to come and see the Lord. But the temple doors were closed. So when he opened it, Nila Madhava disappeared. And so the king was so sad. And he was so unhappy. And he thought the person who was taking care of the deities, Vishwavasu, he was the king of the pig herders. So you can understand they were not Brahminical or anything like that. Very low-class people, so-called low-class. But then Nila Madhava allowed them to take care of him. And so when the king was so astonished and heartbroken, he thought this person must have hidden Nila Madhava. So he arrested him. And then, of course, Narad Muni comes and explains the whole story, that the Lord himself has disappeared. But the king could not accept that, and so he was heartbroken, and he was crying. And then the Lord spoke to him from the celestial voice and said, "Don't worry, I will come in a form of a wooden log, and then you carve me and you can worship me. So he was, okay, I'll do that. And so then he was given instructions of building the temple proper. And so he sanctioned, he built the temple, and then Narada Muni told him that Lord Brahma has to come and consecrate it. So in those days, the earthly denizens could travel, or at least King Indradumna was so powerful, he could travel to the demigod planets. And so he took you can say, a train ride to Brahmaloka. So so he went to like a half an hour trip to see Brahma. And so whilst he was there, the time duration is different between Brahma's time and earthly time. So it was so many yugas passed away. So what he left behind has changed. So by the time he had made the agreement with Brahma and he came back, the whole place was gone. All his descendants, everyone was gone. And he was shocked. But thankfully there was this crow. This crow, Bhushandi, I think that's his name, and he lives for many, many ages. He's a devotee of Lord Ram, so he's always singing the glories of Ram. So when King Indradumna came, and he came to the place of the temple, the new king had proclaimed that it was his. So he said, "This is mine. I built it." You know, he was so attached to it. What had happened was when King Indradumna left, like I remember I was saying, sometimes the sand from the ocean comes through, so it had covered the whole temple. The temple is about quite like 70, 80 feet tall, I think, yeah. So anyway, when this new king, he was riding a horse and he hit the top of the temple dome. And so he dug it up, and then he saw the temple, and he claimed it for himself. He said, "I discovered it." and so when King Indradumna said, he said, "I built the temple." He said, "No, I was the one who built it." So they were fighting, and so the crow came and said, "Look, I've been living for a long time. And everybody knows who the crow is." And so the king who was lying kept, accepted that that is a fact, that Indradumna is the original builder of the temple. And so when Indradumna invited Brahma to do the consecration, at that time when Brahma came, he did all the activities and he blessed the place for the installation of the deities. Then he couldn't find the deities, right? Because it wasn't done yet. So then he found out that the deities, the log of wood is coming in the ocean. Now it is said that this white, huge piece of wood is coming from the spiritual world. So anyway, there was nobody could move it in the beach. It was just stuck there, except for one person, a descendant of Vishwavasu, the pig herder king's descendant. So he comes and he just pulls it so easily. Later on it's revealed that it's the same person. Vishwavasu has taken many birds to come and do the same. So anyway, they bring it to the location where the present-day Gundicha temple is, very close by, and that's where they carve the deities. So now when the king invited many sculptors and so on, and wood masters, master craftsmen, to come and chip, all their equipments broke. So they could not do it. And finally one old man came and said, "Okay, I'll do it, but no questions asked." "I'm going to build the whole thing in a hut, and you cannot open the door for 21 days. So the king thought, no one else could do it, let this old man give him a go, So he goes inside, and every day he hears all this noise going, ding, 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 ding. So it goes on for 14 days, and then suddenly the noise stops. So then the king is like, what's happening? Is it happening, or did the guy die? He's so old. And then his wife, king's wife, her name is Gundicha. So she says, you better check on the old man, he could be gone, So the king, like, yes, I should. And he wants to really make sure the Lord, he's still thinking it's going to be Nila Madhava form, So, and then they open the door, and all they see is this, from their point of view, the unfinished sculptures of 3 deities, Then he breaks down crying, oh, woe me, fee on me, hell with me, what have I done, I did not listen to the instructions, and so on. And so he cries and laments like anything. And again the Lord speaks to him and says, don't cry, because this is the form that I want to show. And then he is relieved, and then he says, and then Lord Narad Muni tells him, get all the artisans, let them come and paint, and then we can have the installation ceremony like that. And so they do the installation ceremony, and during the installation ceremony, the Lord himself comes, and then he speaks to King Indradumna, and he says, you're such a wonderful devotee, what do you want? I want to give you a boon. Then he says, I don't want any boon. He says, no, what boon do you want? He says, well, the boon I want is I want no more issues. And the reason is because of this king who claimed the property. He says, I don't want anyone to own you or claim rights over you. And so the Lord said, yes, so be it. Then he said, I want you to always give anyone and everyone your darshan. That means people can come and take audience of the Lord, because in the old temple he was all locked away and nobody could see him. So therefore he agreed. The Lord said, so be it. And then the other boon he asked is that, my Lord, you should take... Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And then the other boon he asked was he wanted the Lord to always take a lot of bhoga. And he said, you should eat so much so that your hands should be, always be full of prasad, that you eat and you wash your hands and it's wet. And before it dries up, you should eat again. So that is why in Jagganath Puri they do 56 offerings. Sometimes they say they do 56 times the offering. Sometimes they say 56 different kinds of offerings. When I was there, I asked one of the gentlemen, they say they actually offer more than 56 items. They say sometimes it's more than 1,000. Yeah, it's amazing, no? Well, you can't really challenge kids, They will win, hands down. Now the caretaking of the deities were done by the descendants of the king's head priest. His name was Vidyapati. He married the Sabara king, the pig herder's king's daughter Lalita. He already had a wife in King Indradumna's kingdom, the city of Avantipur. So the descendants of his wife became the priests, the present-day priests. And then the descendants of Lalita became the pandas and the cooks. And then the descendants of Vishwavasa are the daityas who carry the deities and fix and do the rath carts and so on. So at present day there is 36 communities or descendants of them. So each one have a certain function, they do that. Some dress, some paint and stuff like that. Now, it is said that the birthday of Lord Jagannath, of course he's Krishna, you would think it's Janmashtami, right? Right? But it's not actually. His birthday is Snan Yatra. That's the day he appeared. Now, according to Skanda Purana, it doesn't say that the Lord gets sick when they do the Snan Yatra. But actually, he does get sick. And it's amazing, even in ISKCON, like in Mayapur, it's all Jagannath Leela. So, Jananivas Prabhu, he takes care of the Rajpur, the deities in Mayapur. It's called Rajpur, and they have Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. So he paints them during Snan Yatra. So when he does that service, he gets sick. Every year, without fail. And then you think he's the only one? No. In another city, like 30 kilometers out of Jagganath Puri, there's another city, it's called Bhadrak. And in Bhadrak, there's a devotee, Srila Prabhupada's devotee, and he was a Gurukul teacher in Mayapur. So one of the Gurukul boys, a Western boy, he became attached to him and his wife, and he kind of adopted them and they adopted him. So when he was a little boy, they took him to Jagganath Puri, but they told him Westerners are not allowed, but he wanted to go. So he went into the temple, but the pandas came and boom, they stopped him. So the little boy was so heartbroken, so he cried for many days. For many days he cried, and then so after he got over that period, he made a vow that he will build a Jagannath temple with the same size Jagannath deities for Westerners. So that was many years ago. The boy is now probably in his 30s, and he's an American boy, but he lives in Bhadrak with he married one of the girls there, and he lives there, but he does a lot of business, and somehow or other he gets lots of money. So he has built a Jagannath temple in Bhadrak. It's called Bhaktivedanta Ashram, Jagannath Temple. And he has sanctioned people to build Jagannath deities. And I was fortunate enough to see them this trip. And they are huge, about 10, 12 foot tall. Huge, beautiful, beautiful. And so any devotee who can't get the similar darshan in Puri can go to Bhadrak and then have a nice darshan to your heart's content. Yeah. And the darshan is very close, just like I'm sitting in Kirtan Ras and Prabhu's here. That's how close the deities are, huge. And you have to look at the deities like that. It's beautiful deities, really beautiful. So the lady there, who's I guess his mother, adopted mother, so she takes care during Snan Yatra. So we visited her during that time, just before Rath Yatra. And so she said she was sick also, taking care of Jagannath. And so it's not only one or two places, many cities where you see the pujaris who's taking care of the deities during Snan Yatra, they get sick. So it's like, when you have a cold, bad cold and so on, if you hang around those people, you'll get bad cold too. But if it's a Jagannath cold, it's not so bad. Yeah, so that's so wonderful to see them. Yeah, so as I said, so Jagannath takes prasad whole day. He only sleeps for 3 hours. Generally, they stop around 11 o'clock, and then they let Jagannath rest for a little bit, freshen him up, and by 2 or 3 o'clock he's up. Again, prasad is offered to him, bhoga is offered to him. And so they're very particular about all those things. One year I was in Puri, but not for Rath Yatra. This was in December. I went there. There was I believe it was an Australian girl. She had gone to Puri and she lived there for 1 year. And she picked up the Orient language. So she became very expert in speaking the local language. So during our time there, I believe it was 2011, so she went into the temple. She wrapped herself up, speaking Oriya, walked in. So she went all the way and to Jagganath, right in front of Jagganath, and they caught her. Yeah. And then they made a big hoo-ha, and that whole day they shut down the temple. And she was arrested, and then, of course, she didn't stay in prison. They fined her $5,000 for that. And then they shut down the temple, and they spent the whole day washing the temple. Yeah, the whole day they were washing the temple, and all the boga, unoffered boga, they threw away. Yeah, so they are so particular, so particular. And of course, after that, when ISKCON devotees didn't go because, they will say, you guys, because of you guys. but that's how strict these people are. Okay, so... Let me see, yeah. Now there are 5 sacred places in Jagganath Puri for bathing, in case you want to go. And it said that if you take in any one of these places bath, you can get liberated. One is Indradumna Sarovar, it's a lake, and this water is used for bathing the deities, cleaning the temple, and so on and so forth. And another one is Markandeya Sarovar, where the Rishi Markandeya stopped. Sweta Ganga, where the Ganges river manifested on its own. And another Kunda, Rohini Kunda, but it's inside the temple itself. So you can never get there unless you ask. In fact, the kunda has become so small, it's like a well. But you can get some water. You have to ask the pandas to get the water, so they can give a little bit and sprinkle. When this place was first manifested in the beginning, Rohini Kund was very big. And so, let me see. At that time, at that time when this place was created, Brahma came and saw the beautiful form of Nila Madhava at that time, and at the same time he saw a crow flying. So the crow was flying near this Nila Chala mountain. So, and when Nila Madhava, before Jagannath temple is built, so the crow came to this Rohini Kund and drank the water. And right in front of Brahma, the crow gave up its body and manifested a 4-handed hand form, and then went back to Vaikuntha. So when Brahma noticed that, he was like, wow, this is amazing. At the same time, Lord Yamaraj, the Lord of that, came, and then he said, no, he offered prayer to Nila Madhava and Lakshmi Devi and said, I have a duty to punish sinful people, but this lake is helping them go away without all the punishment. So I have some, issues here. But then Lakshmi Devi, she told him, neither you or any demigods have any say in this place. This is the Lord's eternal abode. It's a special place, Sri Kshetra or Jagganath Puri, because at the end of annihilation, this place still exists. It's a spiritual place. Within this planet, this is a spiritual place. So it's always existing. And so she says, anyone who's sinful, who comes here, it'll all be burnt away. The people in this dham are free from their sins simply by seeing the deities. So it is said also in the scripture that when the demigods look at the residents of Jagganath Puri, they see all of them having 4-handed forms. So when you walk into Jagganath Puri, you may be sprouting 2 more hands. Huh? Yeah. So that's why some people live there in the holy dham. Yeah. So they get more and more purified, and their love for the Lord increases like that. So then she told, son of the sun god, this is not the place for your duty. Your duty is, the jurisdiction is not within this spiritual boundary. And he accepted and he left the place. Yeah. And they wanted to know about the place, what's so special about this place. So then she gave the story about the sage Markandeya Rishi. And Markandeya Rishi had a long lifespan. That means he lived for 7 days of Brahma. Okay, so 1 day of Brahma is 8.64 billion years. So he lived for 7 of those days. I guess he's still living. Right? So at the end of every day of Brahma, there's some what we call destruction, minor destruction and so on. And so there's hurricanes, there's cyclones, typhoons, flooding, terrible rainfalls, oceans, rivers overflowing. The entire universe is flooded completely at the end of Brahma's day. And at that time, Markandeya Rishi, because he is blessed with a long life, he doesn't die, but he gets tossed up in the ocean. So much so, he becomes very frightened. And then it so happens that while he was being tossed here and there, he comes to a small island. A tiny island in this ocean that is going crazy. And in that island there's a banyan tree. Right? And on that branch of that tree, there's a leaf, and on that leaf is a little boy Krishna. And he's lying on the leaf, and he's holding his feet, and he's sucking on the toe. It is said that the Lord once was wondering, why is it everybody is worshipping my lotus feet? What's so great about this? So as an adult, it's very hard for you to put your feet in your mouth, But as a baby, you see the babies are so flexible. So he turns into this baby size, lies in the banyan leaf, and then he pulls and sucks to find out what's so great about it. That's so wonderful. Even the Lord is sometimes fascinated by this devotee's attachment to his lotus feet. So I thought that was so amazing. So Markandeya Rishi was amazed watching the Lord holding his lotus feet and sucking on the toe. And he was confused because, after being tossed for so long, and then he's just seeing this amazing little boy sucking. He's thinking, who's this boy, And then all of a sudden, the little baby looks up and inhales. And as he inhales, Markandeya Rishi goes into his body, his nostrils, and goes into his throat. And then he goes into his tummy. And again, he sees darkness, and then the whole 14 planetary systems, the entire creation inside the belly. The Lord is inconceivable. No one can really understand Him, We can't just say, okay, this is what, you read the Bhagavatam, it goes in some systematic way of description of universe and so on. But in reality, the Lord is inconceivable. If He wants, He allows us to understand Him in bits and pieces. But the best way to understand Him is to simply love Him. Then you don't have to worry about anything. You just love Him. I don't want to know anything. I just love you. But anyway, so Markandeya Rishi was being tossed and confused and moving here and there within the valley. He couldn't see the beginning or an end. And then all of a sudden he saw his own hermitage where he used to live, and where he had in the 12th canto, you'll see where he meets with Narayan Rishi. So he sees all of that again. And then all of a sudden, the baby exhales. So again, then he comes out. At that time he realizes this is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he comes and prays and worships him. And then the Lord says, this is my transcendental abode, this island that you're looking. This is my transcendental abode. It is known as Purushottam Kshetra. So that's why we say Shri Purushottam Kshetra. This is Jagannath's abode. And this place is never influenced by material creation or destruction. Those who live here are blessed with eternal pleasure and will never again suffer in a mother's womb. Means you'll never take birth again. Yeah. So then Markandeya Rishi became so happy and excited that he decided he's not going to leave that place again. So that's where he stays, and that's where the lake is, Markandeya Sarovara. Yeah. Now, the holy dham is generally, all holy dhams, you'll find there are protectors of the holy dham. So in Jagganath Puri, there are 8 directions, and there are protectors in all 8 directions, and they are known as Kshetra Palakas, or protectors of holy dham. And they are protected by Lord Shiva. He takes up 8 forms, and he's known as Kapala Mochana, Yameshwara, Markendeshwara, Bilveshwara, Bhatteshwara, Nilakanta, Aishaneshwara, and Kshetrapala. And his wife, Lord Shiva's wife, Gauri or Parvati, she expands into 8 forms to protect the center of Jagganath Puri. Okay? And her 8 forms, you will see when you go there, if you go there, are known as Astachandi. They are Bata Mangala Devi, Bimala Devi, you all have heard of Bimala Devi, Sarva Mangala Devi, Ardhasani Devi, Alamba Devi, Kala Ratri Devi, Marichika Devi, and Chandra Rupa Devi. So there are 8 names like that. But the famous one is Bimala Devi. It is to Bimala Devi that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was asked. He prayed to Lord Jagannath for a son, a powerful son to help him in preaching. So Lord Jagannath appeared to him in a dream and said, pray to Bimala Devi and she will grant you your desires. So then he approached Bimala Devi. She's the consort of Lord Shiva, and there's a temple inside Jagannath temple. And so he approached Bimala Devi, and sure enough, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born. And therefore he named him Bimala Prasad. Yeah. Mercy of Bimala Devi. Yeah. So now you know something. Alright, so, and then at the tip of the conch, which points towards the ocean, that's the place of Lord Narasinghadev, and there's 2 forms of Lord Narasinghadev, if I remember. One is Shanta Narasingha, and the other one is a peaceful one, the other one is an angry one. Not quite Ugra, but that's how he is an angry form. Okay. So then Lakshmi Dev then told Brahma that in a particular Satya Yuga, that King Indradumna will require Brahma's help, and that he will build this temple. So now you know the whole reason for the building of the temple, because she could see the future, and she said he will come, a great devotee. Now the forms of the Lord manifesting in that shape is actually, there's another pastime where in Dwaraka, the queens, when they came to the Kurukshetra, right, for the ceremony, for the solar eclipse celebration, they saw how much love the gopis had for Krishna. So when they went back, the queens wanted to know about this gopis and what Krishna's relationship with the gopis. So therefore they asked, and they asked who else but Rohini. Because Rohini is one person who has lived in Vrindavan as well as Dwaraka. So she is the go-between. And so they asked her to tell them about his pastimes in Vrindavan. So they agreed. So they all were in a room, or you can say in a palace, one of the palaces, 16,108 palaces. So one palace. So while all the queens were discussing, and Rohini was trying to tell the story, but she said, first I need a guard, because we don't want Krishna and Balaram to hear these things. Otherwise they'll go into a certain trance. And so they looked around and said, Subhadra, you go outside and and guard the door. And so she goes out. So while they were discussing the pastimes, Subhadra wanted to hear also. So she goes and listens in the door. So as she's listening to the pastimes, she goes into an ecstasy also. And then her eyes goes big and round. And as she's stunned listening to all these beautiful baby childhood pastimes of Krishna that is so wonderful and nectarian. And as she's going through that ecstatic feelings, guess who comes along? Balaram comes in front and then Krishna is following behind. And Balaram said, hey, Subhadra, what's happening? And then he can see her head is stuck on the door listening. So then he puts his head and he listens, and then he goes into a trance. And then his eyes also goes big, and this time his hands goes into his body, shrinks, and then they manifest this wonderful form. And then finally Krishna says, Balaram, what's happening to you? And then he goes and then he listens, and he also manifests this thing. So what happens is their eyes go big and the big smile, and then the hands shrinks, and then they are all stuck there, enjoying the ecstatic pastimes, hearing their own pastimes. So guess who comes? Narada Muni. So when he comes, he gets into his ecstasy. And so he prays to the Lord and he says, my Lord, this form is far out, I wish to see this being manifested for the people of the earth, so that they too can get your mercy. And then the Lord agrees, and that's the form of ecstasy. The Lord manifests his full ecstasy. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when he listens to these pastimes, and if you read, his hands go big, long, or shrinks inside. So it's the same thing. So this ecstatic form is what we see in the form of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. So sometimes we think, why is a form like that? It's their Mahabhava. Yeah. They are exhibiting the full prema of the joy of hearing, the joy of experiencing the love of Godhead, like that. So that is the reason for their advent also. Now, as I said earlier, Lord Jagannath's Mahaprasadam, why is it Mahaprasadam? The story is Narada Muni once went to Vaikuntha, and then he served Mother Lakshmi very attentively. You would think he's already liberated, why would he want to do all these things? But in any case, there's a reason. So he served her very attentively, and for a long time. And then Lakshmi Devi was so pleased with him. And then she said, look, I'm so happy with your service attitude and all. Ask for a boon. Ask for anything, I'll grant you. And then he said, my dear mother, you must promise that whatever I ask you, you should grant, and you should not say no. So then she smiled and said, of course, I vow that I will grant whatever you ask, So then he said, I really want to get the remnants of the Lord's Mahaprasad. And then suddenly she said, oh no. She said, I can't do that because my husband told me I can't give the Mahaprasad to anybody. She said, a few days ago the Lord instructed me not to give his prasad to anyone. You must understand I cannot disobey my husband's order. But then she said, I gave you a promise, therefore I will try and give some prasad. So then she said, okay, let's see, we'll make a plan, So it is said that at noontime in Vaikuntha, she approached her husband, Narayana, and then she did her duties very beautifully. And then the Lord saw that she was kind of unhappy. And since he said, why are you looking so morose? What is the reason? And since she fell at his feet, and then she said, this is my predicament. I promised Narada Muni your remnants, just for today, please, allow me to give this remnants to him. So he said, all right, you may take the remnants, but you must deliver it in such a way that I will not see you giving it to him. Right? When I turn my face to the side, you may take the plate away as if I do not know. He knows everything, right? So anyway, she makes some kind of a ruse, and the Lord looks away, and at that time she takes the plate away. And then she becomes very happy, and she takes the plate and gives it to Narada Muni. So Narada gets so excited when he sees that, and he eagerly he honors the Lord's remnants. He relishes so much, and as he's eating, he's chanting so much also. Narayana, Narayana, oh, chom, chom, eat some. And he goes, Narayana, he's in ecstasy, Wouldn't you be ecstatic if you get the remnants of the Lord? So finally, after everything has happened, he's dancing, after he's eaten, he's dancing, he just cannot hold him, just like when you hear some wonderful music and you just groove into the music, So he's grooving and he's dancing and going around. He didn't see Lord Shiva come. Lord Shiva's like, hey man, what's up? What's happening to you? He's like, oh, I'm so happy, I'm in ecstasy. You say, what's the ecstasy about? Then he just blurts out, I had the Lord's Mahaprasadam. And then Lord Shiva gets angry with him. How dare, you ate all of it and didn't even give me some, And then Narada stops and feels bad, I say, yeah, I should have thought about that. So he says, I don't know, I don't have any more. So then Lord Shiva says, no, there must be something, look at your hands. And then he looks and he sees in one of his fingernails there's some of the remnants of the Lord's remnants there. So he says, I see some stuck in my fingernails. So Lord Shiva grabs it and then puts it in his mouth. And then as soon as he takes it, he goes into ecstasy because it's Mahaprasad. And then he is chanting glories after glories of the Lord and singing, and he goes humming and smiling. So he goes, and then he goes back to Kailash, he's just going, And so guess who looks at him? His wife Parvati, and said, what's the story? Why are you so happy? So then he tells her, I was so fortunate, I got this remnant from Narada, and now it's so wonderful, I'm feeling this ecstasy, I don't know how to describe. And she's like looking at him, say, and what about me? So he says, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you there, it's all gone, so she gets very unhappy. So you forgot, how can you do this to me? You are so fortunate and yet you have abandoned me. So then she takes a vow, and she says, you kept the Mahaprasadam from me, I'm deprived of the Lord's prasad. So she's so angry, she starts to burn the entire universe. When Durga gets angry, no one can stop her, From the lower planetary system to the higher planetary system, everyone started feeling the burning heat. The sages, the saints, everyone couldn't hack this anymore. And they come to her, but she's angry, really, like they say, hell hath no fury than a woman scorned, right? So it was like that. So they say, please give up your anger, She says, no, I will not be satisfied, So then finally, Lord Vishnu had to come. So he came to Kailash, and then on the back of Garuda, And then he saw her and says, why don't you just, become peaceful, I'll give you as much prasad you want, please be pacified. And she said, I will not be pacified, even if you give your Mahaprasad, only to me. And he said, why? He said, I want you to give this to all my children, everyone in this creation. So that was wonderful, because of her desire. Now we are experiencing this, I do not want to see any of my children suffer like I am suffering now due to being deprived of your Mahaprasad. You must arrange something so that all living beings, including the dogs, may honor your Mahaprasad. So the Lord smiled and said, so be it. My dear Parvati, to fulfill your desire, I will appear in Neelachaladam as Jagganath. My temple will be famous for distributing my prasad. Whoever takes my prasad will be liberated. I couldn't bring in because, Australian, they'll throw it away, So, all of my prasad will be offered to you first. So what happens in Jagganath Puri? They offer the prasad, then they take it to Bimala Devi, her temple, and then they offer it to her. So after that, then it's distributed. So it's called Mahaprasadam. So that is the story, how the Lord appeared as Jagannath, and then he's distributing so much Mahaprasad. As I said, easily the kitchen cooks for 100,000 people, easily, like that, And on the day of Ratha Yatra, so much cooking is going on, one after another. And this kitchen is amazing, It is said that they cook all at the same time. So they arrange each pot for rice, they put the rice, fill it with water, the spices, and so they put it in between the center fire. And in the center fire they have, let me look it up for you. I have some notes here. They have like, maybe... It's like 56 items. They got 9 rice preparations. And then 11 sweet balls like that. Deep fried, made in ghee, kaja, deep fried in ghee. And then they have like 11, 12 cakes, pancakes and patties. Milk preparations, they have like 10 of them. Dal, they have like 14 of them. So altogether 56 preparations. But out of this 56, they can make different combinations, and sometimes they give like thousands of prep in a day. It's just amazing, how it goes on like that. So the kitchen is set up in different way. They stack all these bogas in different pots, filled with spices, water, dal, everything. And then they put it in the kitchen, and then they light the fire up. So the fire will burn, and at the end of the certain time, everything is cooked at the same time. It's the science. And they also say that they never stop the fire. The fire is burning continuously for hundreds and thousands of years. They never let the fire die. And all these devotees who are serving them, right, when they die, they take this fire from the kitchen and burn them with the fire. Amazing. That's far out. It's just far out. So the fire has been kept for thousands of years. So when you get the prasad, this prasad is special. Yeah. So next time smuggle in Jagannath prasad or bribe the border control, customs. I think you can bring kaja. Kaja you can bring. It's fried, so it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, so there are 3 types of oven they have in the kitchen, like Anna Chuli, Ahi Chuli, and Pitta Chuli. They're like 4 foot by 2 foot by 2.5 foot high, like that. And so they have 2, 3, like that, each one. And the building is very big. It's a big building, It's like maybe like 3 times this size, 3 or 4 times this size, and maybe double this size. So just imagine how many preps they put in there. Yeah, it's just fire. They make sure the fire is never doused, kept burning day and night. Yeah. Because the members of the Lord who help him cook, they are all considered to be members of the Lord's family. So therefore they use the same fire to burn him. Now there are some nice pastimes that I heard when I was there. One of them was a king named Purushottam Deva. This King Purushottam Deva is actually the father of King Prataparudra. Do you know who King Prataparudra is? He was the king present during Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. Yeah, King Pratap. He's a very famous person. So anyway, the father of King Prataparudra is Purushottam Dev, and he was ruling over the state of Orissa. One time he was promised the princess Padmavati from the kingdom of Kalinga to be married. So it was the time of Radha Yatra, and it was also the favorite time for the king. But the father of the princess, his name is King Saluva, he sent his minister to Orissa to check on the spy and see whether he's suitable for his daughter or not. So when he came, it was Ratha Yatra. So normally the king during Ratha Yatra, they sweep in front of Jagannath. So when this minister came and saw King Purushottam sweeping, he didn't understand the behavior. He thought it's an insult to be a king and sweeping in the road. And then he thought this is a Chandala's duty, not a king's duty. So he went back to the Kalinga, kingdom of Kalinga, and he told King Saluva that, this is what I saw this king do. He's sweeping the street. He's not qualified. He's acting like a Chandala. And so therefore the king was, I'm not going to let my daughter be married to this person if he is just a street sweeper. So then he sent the message to Purushottam Dev and say, I'm not letting my daughter marry you. And when Purushottam Dev heard that, he became very sad. But he also got offended because he was only serving the Lord. So he gathered his troops and then he went south to fight with the king. So then took all his army and as a battlefield, but guess what? He lost the battle. He was badly defeated. So he came back, So while he was coming to Puri with his army, defeated army, he was so depressed. He came to a sage, and then he was telling the sage, look, I went there on behalf of Jagannath to protect the integrity and so on, but I got defeated. Jagannath did not help me. But the sage said, did you ask Jagannath permission before you went for the battle? Then the king said, no, I didn't. So he said, that's why you lost. You should ask permission first. So then the king came back to Puri, and then he went straight to the temple, and he cried in front of Jagannath, and he said, why, Lord, did you allow me to be defeated, And he spent the entire night crying in front of the Lord. I mean, they have lots of devotion, and it's not like pretentious or what. And then he cried, and then before the night came to an end, he heard a voice. Jagannath spoke to him. And Jagannath told him, you go and fight. And I'll come with my brother and help you fight. We will win the battle. So then the next morning he again gathered the troops and started his journey to south to fight. So this time both Jagannath and Balaram personally went with him to fight. And they were riding white and black horse. Of course they were in front of him. And they kept riding in front, and they stopped to quench a thirst in a little village. It so happened there was an old cowherd lady who had so much affection for Jagannath that she always wanted to serve them buttermilk. So she was selling buttermilk. So they stopped at her cottage, and then they drank as much buttermilk as they wanted. When they finished, they were about to leave, and then the lady said, hey, you got to pay for this. She couldn't recognize they were Jagannath and Baladev. So they didn't know what to do. And then they said, look, we don't have money on us, but we'll give you this gold ring. Jagannath said, I'll give you this gold ring. You show it to the king who's coming, and he'll pay for it. So then she took it, and then she waited along the roadside. Finally, the king came with his army. Then she approached the king and said, hey, before you go, your soldiers drank my buttermilk. This is the ring they said that you will pay for them. Then when the king saw the ring, he was astonished because it belongs to Jagannath. And then he realized Jagannath is already in front of him, And so he was very happy, and he paid her. And he went to the kingdom of Kalinga and again fought with King Saluva, and this time he defeated him. And in defeating him, he captured the princess, Padmavati. And not only that, he also took 3 deities from the king. One was Lord Ganesh, and the other one is Sri Radha Kanta, and then Sakshi Gopal. So he took all these 3 deities and brought them to Puri. Of course, when he brought the princess back, he was very angry with King Saluva. So he told his minister, get this princess married to a road sweeper, a Chandala, because that's what the king thought I was. So I'm going to punish him. So the poor princess had to, look forward to getting married to a road sweeper. So then he told the minister, so the minister took her away. So then later on, a year later, when Ratha Yatra started, the Purushottam, King Purushottam, again did the ceremonies and so on, and then he started to sweep in front of the Jagannath. So while he finished sweeping, the minister came and said, I have this princess who's going to marry a road sweeper, and you are the road sweeper now. So in a sense, the minister was very intelligent, because the princess is a high quality lady and you don't do that to her. It's not fair to her. So then the king appreciated his gesture and thanked him and realized that. Now, the deities, Ganesh is in Jagannath temple. He's in the front. You can see when you go, for those who can go in. And the deities, the other deities, Shri Radha Kanta, were also left on Jagannath's altar. And they used to offer a lot of bhoga to that. So one day, Jagannath appeared in the dream of the king and said, you get rid of Shri Radha Kanta. And then the king said, why? And he said, he's taking all the good stuff. I want him out of this thing. So then they moved. They moved Shri Radha Kanta, and he moved to the head priest. And the head priest is Kashi Mishra. all right, the priest of the king. So he kept it in his house. And so that's where later on Mahaprabhu lives in a place there. It's known as Gambira, right? Okay. And Sakshi Gopal kept moving to different places, and now he's about a few kilometers away from Puri, yeah, like that. Now, recently or a few years ago, maybe 20 years ago, I shouldn't say a few years ago, Jagganath's Ratha Yatra was about to begin. So then they moved Balaram, so he went on his cart. Then they moved Subhadra, she went on a cart. So while they were about to bring Jagannath, he wouldn't move. So generally they start at 10 in the morning to move the deities. So he didn't move. So they tried so many ways, they tried and tried, but he wouldn't move. So it became 3 o'clock. Generally the carts start moving around 3 o'clock. Didn't move. He still hasn't gone up. When they move the deities on the cart, they do an elaborate ritual, ceremony, and that takes a few hours, each deities, like that. Jagannath not moving. At that time, the king was a little boy, maybe a teenager. So the king was there and waiting for so finally nothing happened. So around 4 o'clock, the king went and he told the Pandas, go, I want to talk to Jagannath. So they moved away. Then he said to Jagannath and he talked. He talked for a while. For some time, like half an hour he talked. And he said something and then he came back. And then they moved and Jagannath moved. So they wanted to know what the king said to Jagannath. The king said, no, I've never. So it was a secret. So it was something, they said that the king had made some mistakes that only he knew. And he thought nobody else knew about it. But Jagannath knew. And so Jagannath refused to move until he confessed to the mistake. So once the king confessed and promised he will rectify his mistake, and then the king didn't say what the mistake was, but he revealed what it was. And then Jagannath moved. And remember Jagannath is like 10 foot tall and it's not easy, a couple of tons, So they tie big ropes along his waist and in the bottom. And before they do, I was told that they wrap some cloth so that he doesn't get damaged. And then with the rope, they rock him, So, and then they put nice, big, long mukuts. You can see in some of the YouTube, it's far out. So they rock him like that, and you can see the whole headdress moving in the side and so on. And he rocks slowly and so beautifully and gracefully, and all the way they rock him. He's the king of rock and roll, And he goes up on the cart, and then he goes, yippee-yi-ki-yay, and then they start the Rath cart after that, Well, it's 5 to 9. I'll stop here. And there's a little more stories tomorrow. And thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to see devotees. At least it gives me some impetus to discuss further. Right? And so anything do you all want to say or add before we greet the deities?
Yes, just quickly. I know I'm not allowed to go into the actual temple being a listener, but can I be present at the Rath Yatra?
Yes. That's the reason, one of the reasons where boons that Indradumna asked that the Lord should come and give free darshan to everyone, anyone. In 3 years ago, they stopped this, that anyone could go up the cart and hug anybody, hug Jagannath and so on. But from 3 years ago, they stopped this. So now you can see, but you can't go up anymore. But previously, people could go up, hug, do whatever you want. They allowed that,
Is that
Yeah.
also because of people jumping in front of it?
I don't know. I do not know, so I don't want to speculate. More so because I think the government stepped in and there was a lot of corruption. If you want to go up, the pandas are taking money, so I think they wanted to stop that. That's what I heard, but I'm not really sure if that's the reason. But yeah, anyone can take darshan when the Jagannath comes out. So recently, now when the cart moves, you think it's moving slowly. Because it's so huge, the speed is very misleading, But when you're there, it's really moving. Boy, does it move. Because everyone's pulling the rope. Everybody wants to pull the rope, So we stayed away from that. But then I said, I want to try Jagannath, So I went closer, and the cart was coming closer, and I thought, well, I'll wait until they come, and then I'll go in. And all of a sudden, the cart's right in front of me. And then thousands of people all around me. And I felt like I was in the ocean of devastation, Because I was being pushed left, right, and center, and I had no control. I was scared. And I didn't know what to do. Then I decided I'm going to get out, And somehow or other, I ran to the front amidst the crowd that's squeezing and tossing you. So when I came out, I thought that was it. And all of a sudden, I see the rope in front of me. So I grab it, and I'm pulling, and then the cart stops. Then I said, I'm getting out. So I ran out. I ran to the front, and I flanked out. And then I saw Jagannath, I said, thank you. So I felt, but I also felt I was a fool, but at the same time I said, I'm never going to get another chance like that. So anyone can go and pull the rope, and if you ever get an opportunity, go, And amazingly, this year the weather was so cool. It was really cool. There was a cool breeze blowing, and the carts were going, and there was no sun. It was all over cloudy, And it was so nice, yeah. Anything else? Yes.
You mentioned in the beginning that people who run the temple are unqualified. Is that simply based on their lineage, or just all coming from the big farm?
Yeah, they're all people like that. Because generally deity worship means pakka, brahmana, rules, regulation. But Jagganath Puri, no such thing. Lord Jagannath has made it easy for these people.
But not like those people who run the temple, they don't have bad current behavior. It's just that based on caste.
Yes, they follow that. Yeah. But they still follow their rules, which says that if unqualified people come in, they have to clean the temple. So they are very attached to those kind of principles. But Prabhupada said they shouldn't, because they should know by now what is the qualification is. But it's very difficult to give up when you're growing in that kind of environment, But in another sense, you can understand. The Jagganath Puri, another name for Jagganath Puri is Vipralamba Bhav. That means separation from the Lord. So people like Westerners who can't go in, you're actually hankering to see the Lord. So you're actually better off, because you can hanker for the Lord's mercy like that, This is something that is very special, Jagannath is really special. He is Krishna, he is Dwaraka Krishna, but the mood is totally different. He is in the mood of separation from the gopis. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows us that separation in Jagganath Puri. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
With regards to the pastime, where they're hearing of the Vrindavan pastimes, what's the significance of Subhadra being there? Because Krishna and Balaram were from Vrindavan, obviously. Subhadra,
Well, she's their sister and she lives in Dwaraka. Yeah, so they ask her to guard. Yeah, she's also Yoga Maya. Yes, yeah. I'll tell you some more tomorrow about Yoga Maya. Yeah, a bit more, yeah. All right. Thank you for your kind attention. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai.
Yes.